Hi, this is Mark Meir, the voice of Commander Shepard, and you're tuned in to the EnteR ChazmaN podcast, my favorite podcast on the Citadel. ChazmaN and Phoenix, let the conversations begin. To the Normandy.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the EnteR ChazmaN podcast. As always, this is your place to hear all the kind of nerdy, geeky video game news that me and my buddy Phoenix have thought was pretty interesting throughout the week. Once again, just wanted to say, just above my head, if you guys wanted any locations for our audio podcast only, check them out right up above here. And if you'd like to submit any questions for the podcast, feel free to post to any of my our social medias, or my social medias. I guess that would be EnteR ChazmaN at Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And feel free to comment down below any questions or future topics or anything you guys felt like would be super interesting for us to touch on, or maybe we'll consider some topics you guys come up with. What do you think about that, Phoenix? You want to hear some topics from other people?
I love it. I love hearing from you guys.
See, he doesn't have to always work what I want to work on. I'm sure he appreciates that.
Very much.
So yeah, Phoenix, what's going on, man? How was your short week since our last podcast we recorded?
I know. I feel like we just did this, didn't we? Since we had that kind of delayed session last week, but yeah, I'm doing all right. My voice still a little gone, but that's all right. That just means you guys get to listen to a sultry Phoenix for at least one more week, so you're welcome.
And you're gonna get also a less educated ChazmaN, because I kind of let for Phoenix
nothing new there. Sorry.
Yeah, Phoenix this week kind of took the reins on a lot of the notes, and I have not have time to really check out anything oriented around my podcast. But
that's the kind of professionalism that you get here on the EnteR ChazmaN podcast.
Yeah, so also we will be taking a little vacation, so it might be a bit since we get to our next episode. So this may be a slightly shorter episode, which nothing wrong with that. I guess just for us, a couple of our topics that we're going to be touching on for today, we're going to be talking about what me and Phoenix played throughout the week, which was a super fun game that we kind of finally were able to come back to after taking a break from it, I guess. I don't know why. But I guess one of our topics we're going to be talking about why the potential status of Halo, and should 343 keep making the Halo games. Should anyone be able to get their hands on it? I don't know. But we will chat about that. And then actually two major topics that came up orient themselves kind of around Ubisoft and what's going on with them right now, which Phoenix is going to kind of he'll take the reins right on that, because
I want to be in charge. This is your name's on this thing.
Well, I don't know.
I'm just kidding. Not of mine.
Once again, you're the one that threw the topics at me, so.
It's all good. It's all good. I have to accept my royalty check to be a little bigger this time.
Oh, absolutely. That's all the donos that are coming in to the channel are going to go straight to you.
Perfect. Before we get into any of those new topics, I did want to just draw attention. In our comment section on YouTube, we had a fabulous commenter leave us quite the response to our Soulsborne discussion. And first and foremost, I'm so glad just to see anybody engaging at all. So thank you so much just for taking the time just to share your opinions and your thoughts. And I mean, whether we agree, disagree on it, I just like, having a conversation and getting some input out there.
Absolutely. So thank you to...
We are not always right.
Yeah, so thank you to Phantom Death for leaving a comment. We're not going to go... They kind of just were talking about some of our opinions and thoughts about one of our previous topics from the last podcast of the sales numbers for Oddworld Soulstorm.
He brought up a good point. We did overlook something that does kind of change the context of our conversation. I know we were going on pretty heavy on, they claim they may have lost, so many sales, etc. But, the sales that they may have made weren't, really indicative of the number that were downloaded. But the point that was brought up, which is fair, I remember reading the article, but for whatever reason we were talking about last week, it kind of just skipped my mind. When they released that game, they originally had plans on releasing it in, I think, January of, was it 2021? I think it was.
I don't remember.
And at that time, Well, regardless, they had plans to release it, earlier on in kind of the PS5's life cycle, and at that point, they were basically assuming that, there's not many that PS5s even out there in the market, so there wouldn't be that many potential sales anyway. And I guess the whole point was the deal that Sony was offering them, that money was either going to be better or equivalent to the potential sales they would have had during that, first month. So that was, I think, a big maybe mitigating factor on why they went with that deal initially. But the game, which we didn't mention last week, got pushed off or delayed by 3 months and actually ended up coming out in April, which the argument there is then, well, there's more PS5s out there in the market. That means more potential sales could have occurred. So that 4 million downloads,
that number offered.
It ate into those potential sales because there was a larger, demographic then of people who could have actually purchased that game. So that's a fair point. And it definitely doesn't mean that still all those, 4 million downloads equals 4 million sales. And I 100% agree with that. And it's really tricky to say exactly how many sales were lost in that, but it's fair to say that there is a larger projected amount that was lost because of that delay. So that's a fair point, and I'm glad that was brought up because I'm definitely not one that likes to spread any form of misinformation or if I overlook something. So always feel free to call us out if you notice something that we don't quite touch on well enough. I think honestly the more interesting kind of thing to think about then is just how tricky these decisions are to put your game on with these subscription services, especially if you're thinking about putting it on in like your release window. That's probably a pretty big... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It just sounds like when it comes to a company or developer thinking about doing a deal such as this, it seems like there's a lot of what is the term, fine print. There's a lot of you need to really think about each sort of caveat when it comes to these kind of deals, because it doesn't sound like they took that into account.
Well, I think to be fair, I think they did. I think that delay really threw things off. And, once they signed the deal, it was probably a thing they made the deal early on for that release in January, and they probably couldn't back out of it, I'm assuming, once they decided that a delay was necessary. But it changed the whole kind of landscape of how that deal was going to play out. And that's fair. It's a tricky thing. And honestly, you got to think, when a game does... let me rephrase this. The most sales you're probably going to get from a game is during, that opening month when it's released, right? Because that's when it's hot. Everybody knows about it. It's hot on the shelves.
Oh, yeah.
So,
of course.
And that's probably, the same rationale for why you don't see Sony jumping at the bit right now to throw their first-party games on their subscription service, right? They want that to sell well on its own for X amount of time, then throw it onto their subscription platform.
Well, I'm sure... I think Microsoft is they've never come out and said it, but I'm sure Microsoft takes a hit to an extent on some of the first-party stuff coming to Game Pass. I'm sure they're taking a hit somewhere. The difference is, we've said it before, Sony is not Microsoft. Microsoft can...
They've got different strategies. Yeah, they can take a hit far differently and far better than Sony can from a financial standpoint. So... it's hard to compare, the business side of both those companies, whether it be Sony or Microsoft. But if you're looking at it from just an independent developer's stance, it's a hard decision. So maybe I came across a little harsh last week for the Oddworld developers, that maybe they were being a little, I don't know the best way to phrase it, but I do understand the situation they were in, how that might hit them a little harder than maybe we're giving them credit for.
I don't know why, for some reason, talking about this made me think of... was the Robot Chicken skit from the Star Wars? We have altered the
deal keeps getting plans. Worse all the time.
Pray we do not alternate further.
Yeah, no, it's fair. It's tricky. It's tricky. So I do feel for that developer. I'm sure there were other, variables and caveats that led to that game maybe not selling as well as intended, but you got to think 4 million downloads didn't help the situation at all.
It is especially... Oh, sorry, I cut you off.
No, go ahead.
It is especially sad because that commenter made it seem as though they really enjoyed the game, so it is, from the viewpoint of maybe a lot of Sony people, it was a quality title that, maybe didn't get some of the recognition some people felt it deserved.
I went back, I read the article again, I looked at some reviews for the games. Reviews are always, take a grain of salt with it, because you can never be sure how much that really is indicative of the quality of the game, the fun factor of the game. But if you are a fan of the series and you enjoy the game, of course, try to support it by purchasing, a copy if you can. That will hopefully fund these developers so they have a potential option to, make a new entry in the franchise down the line.
I guess.
All right.
Yeah. So once again, thank you, Phantom Death, for the comment. We like Phoenix said, he didn't have to make it sound so dire that we got engagement from viewers.
I've seen the comment listing. There's like none.
I just made him invisible to so people can't see him. Make myself feel better.
Don't do that. Oh, that's wow. Okay, wow. So you got some.
I ghosted the comments
going on. Oh no! Oh no! No,
Yep.
I do not approve. It sounds like I'm going to have to start my own podcast. I'll drop my social medias in the link, so follow me over there. Leave ChazmaN behind.
So you're gonna Elon Musk me on Twitter?
Perhaps.
I guess one other thing I did want to bring up, just a little quick note is if you guys didn't see, Microsoft actually announced that they're having their live showcase that's going to be on June 12th. I'm not quite sure what we're going to do for that. I think last year I actually did like a reaction stream to it. I know the ethical value of Phoenix has mentioned that before. He doesn't know quite how. Microsoft didn't nail my video down, so I don't know. Because I remember you saying.
What did I say? I don't remember.
I remember there was.
I yell at you about so many things, Chaz. I can never.
Live streaming a live event like that. There was like a big deal where some of those companies or E3 was coming down on certain people.
Oh yeah, I don't think it was Microsoft so much, but E3 I think
The ESA
last
or whatever.
year or whoever, they had put out a thing basically saying that be careful streaming this because it's not your content.
And I ended up recording the Microsoft one, and I didn't get a thing. So
but that might have been because that was just from Microsoft. I mean, we can figure out the logistics there, but I mean, we can do something to go ahead and discuss it as it's coming out. I mean, may have some kind of live stream where we discuss what's going on.
That's what I was going to suggest. Is it might be kind of fun for us to do like a dual viewing or something. I mean, it's at 1 p.m. I think you get done with your stuff on Sundays at about 11 to 12. So we'll see if we can make it work. But it's 1 p.m. Eastern, so might be kind of fun. See what Microsoft has got going on. We've mentioned it before, but I think that's the only thing happening around that time now. So.
Well, it's hard to say. I think we'll probably start seeing developers just announce their independent kind of streams and whatnot as we get close to the dates. Like Nintendo is usually pretty quick. Like they'll announce next week we got a direct, and then just bam, there it is.
Do you think other companies are going to want to because I guess maybe that, like you said, that's a good time to just start. Now that Microsoft has put its flag in the ground, maybe the other companies can be like, oh well, since we know viewers eyeballs are going to be on computers at that time.
And you got, Achilles Summer Game Fest or whatever that thing is. So, I mean, summertime is just a big time for announcements because you got to think they want to get that hype train rolling for the fall, and they're all going to have various IPs and franchises that they want to, market for. So, I'm sure summer, usually June, is a big month to get some different announcements. So
we're finally going to get.
We'll cover what we can.
We have to get gameplay of what's it called? What's the Bethesda game? Oh crap! Why can't I think of it? Starfield. I mean, that game comes out in December. I mean, or November.
I would imagine we'll see something. I'd be surprised if we didn't. I'd be a little worried if we didn't, to be honest.
It's kind of. I'm worried now. Why haven't we seen anything? I mean,
well, I don't. I see, and we've taken different stances on this. I don't need or necessarily want to see a game too early. For one, I think it just drags out the hype train too long, or it raises expectations to an unrealistic level. So I think I'd rather see a game when it's closer to completion, get a better feel for what they're going for. Huh?
I feel like we talked about this.
We have. We've mentioned this before. Yeah, maybe it's because I've been burned by hype multiple times, and maybe I'm also just not as hyper focused on every single release that comes out. Now I got other things going on.
You have to pay extra.
Yeah,
that's a pro.
But regardless, I mean, I'm definitely curious what they got. I think we'll probably see some Starfield as well as a few other things. I'll be curious to see what Nintendo brings. I know they delayed Breath of the Wild 2, but I'm still hoping we see something pertaining to that, because otherwise you wouldn't see anything for it till late this year, and then it's supposed to release early next year. So I don't know, I'm curious what they bring to the table.
Yep. Okay. So sorry, I was just pulling up some B-roll for our topic.
Oh, you're just ignoring me. I get it. It's fine.
No, I would never ignore you. So yeah, I guess me and Phoenix, we were playing, or I guess for our game that we've been playing the last week, we I'd say maybe a month ago we started playing the game Nobody Saves the World, And
longer than that, because we started playing. Well, because Tiny Tina's kind of came out in between, and that took at least my attention for probably a month on its own. And we started playing this like, I don't know, a month before that. So this was probably a good 2 or 3 months ago we first started playing it, and finally got back to it.
Yeah, and then we came back, or I was kind of pressing you because I knew you had wanted to come back to it anyways. So I just kind of wanted to knock it off of our backlog.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you did. I'd honestly just kind of forgotten about it when you brought it back up, but I'm glad we came back to it. It was a fun game. I
think more of it is that like I was really egging myself to like start a new game, and like I don't want to like leave too many like doors open. It's like at least close a couple. I did that with the Gunk and now this game, so I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty good now to move on to something else.
Fair.
But yeah, so we came back to this game. We finished it through and through. I feel like we left a few quests on the table. We unlocked all the characters at least, though. We didn't max out everything. Was that something you wanted to go back and do? I feel like I had my fill.
Not necessarily. Usually with a game like this, especially one that has like a lot of like, side quests and whatnot, if I don't do them before I do the final mission, I usually never come back and do it. And I knew we were trying to finish this up late last night, so we were just kind of speed running through the last couple of seconds of it. But no, now that I've beaten the game, I don't have a whole lot of interest to go back necessarily, wrap up all the side quests or whatnot. I'll probably move on to something else.
No, I agree.
Not that they weren't fun. That's how I usually treat most of these type of games.
Yeah, it was fun. I don't think there's any meat left on that bone. Like there were some side quests. That was just about it. I mean, so I guess I'll get into some of my super basic thoughts. I mean, I really enjoyed the gameplay. I felt like my favorite part probably is how they really found a way to make. They have all these different characters that throughout the game you slowly unlock, and you kind of gain graded tiers or graded milestones by performing certain acts with certain characters. And I really liked how they able to mix that in, where like you could use different abilities on each type of character on other characters. I felt like that really made it super fun. What about you? Did you like that aspect?
Yeah, and honestly, I think when we either realized that or when the game kind of opened up to that, it really kind of changed my feeling on the game. Like, initially, the game, at least for me, started out pretty slow. 'Cause, I mean, that's, a lot of games, but it didn't have a lot of abilities. And some of the abilities end up being like basically how you traverse the world. So you're kind of locked out of going certain areas until you get certain abilities and characters. So it's really limited up front. Your powers weren't that great. But then there was a point, I'd say maybe like a quarter of the way through the game, a third of the way, when it starts, you rank up your characters high enough that they get extra slots. So you can start, combining abilities from other classes. So basically like multi-classing. And it really opened up. You can then have like your own special build for each character. Like if you and me had the same, like what we both played is like the rat several times. Both our rats were different because we built them a little bit differently and had different kind of perks and passives and stuff like that. So it's a lot deeper than I think at first glance. It's certainly not the most in-depth type of RPG system, but there's a fair amount of customization. If you take your time, you can definitely come up with some cool, interesting builds to tackle some of the dungeons in some unique ways.
Like,
so that was fun.
A moment that kind of sticks out to me, kind of speaking about that, is that towards the latter end of the game, we reached a level where each single time you got hit, because it was kind of like a multiplier, I don't know. They had some sort of effect where in this specific dungeon, each time you got hit, it was a one-hit kill. So you had to be like super careful. And what was super cool is there's this one character in the game you could play as, known as the egg, or it's just an egg, and it gives you the ability to withstand, 6 hits? And it was really cool going through that dungeon and kind of seeing you have that ability, that passive ability set, and me not have it set. And you were able to withstand all this stuff, and I'm like, I should probably put that on,
Yeah, I think that was one of the first times I really started thinking about how some of the abilities would affect the dungeons, because I think we never, up to that point, was a later in the game.
We didn't do a lot of that stuff, no.
Well, we didn't have a lot of difficulty. Like, there were a couple of maybe pseudo-challenging moments, but I think there were very few times where we were just like, man, we can't get through this, or this is like, brutal to try to fight through. Like, for the most part, we progressed pretty smoothly to it. And around that point in the game, too, we were starting to, I think, feel a little overpowered. At least I was. The characters I was starting to end up with, I was starting to, just fly through. And it wasn't until those last two, optional higher-level dungeons that we were having issues with, and that was with our kind of OP'd out characters and whatnot. We had to start applying some strategy. So put that egg passive on so we take more hits. There was the one that we wanted to bypass, how it slows you down.
Oh,
you can make your
the speed one.
faster, dampen how much poison you took. So there was a level of strategy there. I wish that would have came into play earlier, because that was honestly, I think, the most satisfying part of the game. Was when we were able to be like, oh, it's kind of like a puzzle, right? You figure out which passive and which skill to piece together to get through that dungeon. I don't feel like we really got a chance to really engage with that kind of strategy early on, or even in the mid game. It wasn't until at the very end that we're like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Was it only 2-player, or could we have gotten more people in on it?
I think it was 2-player max.
Okay.
But I guess where I was going with this, I think co-op really changed our experience. I bet if we would have done this single player, the strategy probably would have ended up being more necessary as a single player. I think just having the extra person that you could kind of add the extra damage with, and of course, one thing you can kind of exploit with this game is if one character dies, then you just have to make sure the other one stays alive long enough for a relatively short cooldown. It was like 7 seconds or something like that. Then the other character would just respawn with full health, full mana. Basically, they were just good to go. So if you kind of exploited that situation, you could get through tough scenarios without really applying a lot of strategy, just staying alive and kind of trading lives throughout it. So if we didn't have that option, I think we would have had to employ more strategic use of passives and stuff like that. So we lost that to a certain extent, which I'm a little sad about.
I'd be curious to see how I would be curious to see how the scaling differs in first player, or in single player. I don't know. That would be kind of interesting.
I feel like this game is just going to be a very different experience, solo versus co-op. Partially for the reasons I said, but even like the way we unlocked characters, like we pretty much when we got to the end of the game had just done enough to unlock the final character. But that was with both of us. Like the way the game kind of works, for those who hadn't watched the live stream, there's a tree of characters where when you unlock one, it branches off to the next one. So you have to get these different tiers that all kind of connect together in this tree to build up to the next character. But there's kind of two sides to this tree, and basically you took one side and started leveling up those characters, I took the other side leveling up those, so we split our efforts to eventually finish off the whole tree. If I had had to do that all solo, I don't know if I could have gotten all characters, at least not nearly as efficiently as we did. So
I feel like you got the better side, because I feel like your characters were a little bit more interesting. Like I feel like up until I got the Necromancer, did I not find a character that I actually really liked? And that took a long time. He was one of the second to last levels.
Well, a lot of mine were crappy too. I just stuck with them because I was trying to level. I hated the horse. The magician was kind of meh. I never used a card. I don't know. I think for the most part they were pretty.
Oh, I forgot the bodybuilder. I actually really like the bodybuilder. Yeah.
I mean, not that it really matters. The sides, and you have to choose a side. It's kind of how we went about with unlocking our characters. But there was definitely some fun characters. I didn't get a chance to play with a lot of them though, because as I said, I was focusing on my side of the tree. So if this would have been a solo experience, I'm just curious, would I have spent less time with each character and maybe change my play style a little bit? So there's room, I think, to have a different experience with this game if you're wanting to play with other characters or spend more time with them than what we had. But
now that I think about it, some of the stuff I don't think you could do in single player, like that archery part where you have to hit the targets. I don't think you could do that in first single unless there's less targets.
It has to scale down. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine it doesn't. Which I just can't speak to exactly how the scaling works on it.
Unless in single player they would expect you to find some combo of passives that allow you to shoot spread arrows or shoot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, hard to say. I mean, and honestly, if that is the case, I kind of like that. I like that puzzle solving element. But I don't know. It's hard to speak to it because the scaling we got was all focused on co-op. But what we played, I mean, felt good. I never felt like it was unfair. I just wish we could have gotten some of that strategy-related gameplay kind of implemented a little bit earlier, but we definitely kind of just plowed through the mid-game without a whole lot of hassle.
I would say the beginning of the game is a bit slow, but it's intentional because you only have access to one character. Definitely once you begin to get in the flow of unlocking all these characters and you start unlocking all of their different abilities, it definitely picks up. But I wouldn't say that even lasts for very long. I feel like you unlock the second character within 20 to 30 minutes. So
Yeah, it's definitely getting me got to get past that initial hurdle with. Like, it probably takes a good 2 hours, I think, to be like, okay, I see where this
Because
is
I would
going.
say that first hour
Go.
we were a bit just kind of meh on it, right?
hmm I think you were more mad than I was. I think I was trying to be a little more optimistic about it. I think because I knew I'd read a review or something that kind of mentioned the multi-classing, so I knew that was coming.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't know that, I may have had a different initial kind of feeling on it. But with that information in mind, it kind of pulled me through a little bit longer. But yeah, if you're considering this game, if you're watching the gameplay footage and it looks interesting to you, give it a chance. Give it a couple of hours. If you can get past the initial 2 hours or so, you'll have a pretty good feel if this game's for you or not. I will say the ending I thought was a little anticlimactic. I don't know if it was just that we were kind of rushing through it, but based upon maybe it was because based upon the difficulty of some of the little side dungeons we had just had, we got to that final dungeon. It was just like, oh, okay,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know.
Well, that end plot line ends up being that more than the final boss battle. I found anticlimactic, where it was like, oh, you're the Nostramagus, and it just kind of ended up being what you would kind of expected it to be.
Yeah, I was a little half and half on the narrative side of it. Like, it's fun. It definitely has some humorous points to it. It's definitely not the most in depth of narratives out there. And I think your mileage is going to vary on the plot reveals and stuff like that are inside of it. But it's handled well. I liked the Randy the Rad magician character. He was fun to see pop every once in a while.
Almost every NPC was like super funny.
Yeah. So no, it's a game that has good art style. The gameplay is simple, but it's fun. It's a nice kind of casual game for the most part. So it doesn't ever get overly difficult. If you've got a buddy, I'm going to recommend definitely do it co-op. As I said, there is a different solo experience in here that I'm sure you'd have fun with, but to me, I think it's more enjoyable as a co-op experience. The format of it just kind of fits that really well too.
And it was kind of I don't know, the two experiences really fit well together. I mean, going from Tiny Tina to this game, like I feel like there's like a good mesh. Like both of them are kind of humorous, kind of crazy, multiplayer experiences. Not multiplayer, but like more fun and co-op, I think. I don't know. I felt like they just kind of it was a good combo going from one game into the other.
Sure, yeah, I can see that.
I guess I would just say my favorite part about this game, other than the kind of many combinations of like using different characters and mixing up their abilities and using each character to unlock different things in the open world, I would say my favorite part about this game might very well be the open world. There's so many different, like, there's such a wide variety of different areas, and each dungeon is kind of housed in like a super interesting theme or super weird theme. It's just kind of cool, kind of going from each place. And like there was a part where you go inside of a whale and you're like inside this whale, and there's like a science one you kind of go into. I mean, I don't know. I really enjoyed that part.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a weird thing because like you're right, like the aesthetic changes a lot, which is nice, but at the same time, it doesn't usually like change the gameplay
No.
kind of flow of things very much. It's more just like kind of like a palette change. Like it looks different, but you even usually have a lot of the same enemies or enemy types. Every once in a while, they'll have like a new like variation of an enemy pop up at certain locations in the overworld. But I guess I enjoyed that. It looked different. It rarely felt different to me though, if that makes sense. I mean, some of the dungeons yes had like a modifier on them, which made them a little more unique, but every time I went to a dungeon, I'm like, all right, we're just running through, we're getting these many keys, we're killing so many enemies, and we're moving on, and just started to feel a little kind of systematic after a certain point. But I like that in a game like this, honestly. I kind of turn my brain off and just plow through the objective and get to the end and check off a box and move on. So for me, I like kind of the simplicity of it.
I guess I would just say, like, I think you mentioned it already, but part of the fun more of the actual, like, environments and themes is like how you access it, because it is kind of like neat, how like, oh, in order to get into this one area you have to be super tiny and small, become a rat, or to get into this other area you have to be able to withstand poison damage, so become a zombie or something and put on some like dampening passive ability. Or
yeah, it's a little Metroidvania-ish. Not extremely so, and it is very easy to like clean up afterwards, which is kind of nice. Like towards the end, like the map shows you where all the quests are, and it's really easy to kind of tell what you missed, so you can just pop around and quickly clean up things that you overlooked prior by changing your forms and stuff like that. So that's nice.
All right. Anything else? I guess. I mean, that's pretty much all the. That's pretty much all to the game. I mean, there's the. I mean, the combat I wouldn't say is super in depth. I mean, once you kind of get down your passives and finding what you like and upgrading each thing, I mean, it gets easier. Like, that's pretty much all there is to it. I mean, anything else you wanted to kind of say for it?
No, I'll leave it at that. I enjoyed it. I definitely think if what you're looking at the gameplay wise about looks interesting to you, give it a shot. Play it with a friend if at all possible. You're not going to be blown away by any one thing, but it's just a fun co-op experience. That you can just kind of, it's great if you can just kind of turn your mind off a little bit, chat with your buddy, have some fun at the jokes, and just, plow through it.
Well, what score would you give it out of 100 bajillion? Would you give it a...
7 quadruple gillions. I don't know.
It's too much water.
Too much water?
All right.
Oh.
I don't know.
I caught your reference. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, that's kind of that. I mean, once again, I would just say definitely recommend it. Like, second everything Phoenix said. If you got a buddy, if you got a friend, it's definitely worth a playthrough. And how much time did we put in? What did our timer at the end say? It said like 15? 15, yeah, it's not bad.
You could do it much quicker.
Yeah.
It could be a 10-hour game.
We did most of the side quests and like other like things optional.
We did all the dungeons, which we didn't need to do. We did most of the side quests.
Collected all the mana, fairies.
As many as we could find. Yeah, so we weren't completionists, but we probably did 85 to 90% of what was there in one playthrough. So 15 hours was, I think, fair.
And if we didn't mention it, this is on Game Pass, so there's an.
I know it just released on other platforms too.
Is
it
it?
is on
Okay.
Game Pass for free, but I think they released it. I want to say it's on pretty much everything now. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
I know it's on PC. Yeah, I know it's on PC.
Yeah, so wherever you're at, give it a shot. I'm sorry, give it a shot, and
You're
that's
good.
my take.
I don't know what we're gonna do for the next podcast for what we're playing. I don't have anything on the dock, and I'm gonna be gone for a bit, so
We'll find a new segment, Chaz.
maybe I should take a random Switch game on vacation with me and try and play something really short. Try and knock out a single game. I don't know. Maybe that might be fun. All right, so we're going to move on to our first major topic of this podcast. So this is one that Phoenix kind of threw at me, which was kind of interesting. It's more of a hypothetical, but I guess it just kind of revolved around, do we think that 343 Industries should keep making Halo games? Now, did you mean that as in like 343 should voluntarily stop making Halo games, or do you feel like Halo just should be Microsoft should give it to somebody else just to try and get more?
We can take everyone, and this is not a topic that I initially came up with. I either heard it in is either a different conversation or I saw an article about it. I think when they released that roadmap, what was it, last week, there was a lot of negativity around kind of the disappointing kind of track that 343 is laying out for the progression for this game. And there was just some, unease about the direction they're taking it, I think, with the fan base. So people were going like, well, maybe this should be passed off to somebody else's hands. And what's interesting is, when you think about it, 343 has had now, what is this, their third chance? And really
game,
fourth if you're counting Master Chief Collection, too. So it's not like this is, their first outing or second outing. They've had a lot of opportunities now to get this Halo thing done up right. And the problem with it now, not the problem, but the thing to consider is Microsoft now has a bevy of other studios that are really focused on shooters. Like, it just, sucked up Activision Blizzard. So now they've got Infinity Ward, they've got Treyarch, they've got Blizzard with their Overwatch background. You've got Bethesda and id. Like, you have so many other studios in here now that might be able to bring a different take or their kind of expertise from this genre and apply it to Halo. So I don't know if my question was so much if 343 should voluntarily hand it down, because for one, they're not going to.
They're not going to. No.
Well, 343 was created for Halo. Like,
well, yeah, it's called 343.
Yeah, so,
Guilty Spark, though.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that Microsoft is going to pull back or take them off, because they've invested a lot in 343. I mean, clearly they've definitely tried to build up this studio and take.
I already know who I'd want to make it or take it over. So I'll let you.
That's what my question. Well, no, and that's what my question was. Do you, for one, think that someone should have another shot at this, or are you fine with where 343 is going with it? And if you do think someone else should, take it over, who might that be? So I'll let you give your take first.
So I guess first off, kind of tackling whether I'm satisfied or I guess happy with the states, the status of Halo, or I would say no. I mean, there were aspects of Halo. So I'll just go through my thoughts of the games they have made. Halo 4 was fun. I liked aspects of it. I feel like it was one of the stronger Halos I can remember in terms of like a strong narrative. I feel like that game, what it failed in my opinion, was I feel like some of the gameplay to me just didn't feel Halo-y, and there was just some odd decisions in terms of like, I don't know, I feel like the character design just got bad with the whole, oh my gosh, what are they called? The, the Prometheans, yeah.
I think my issue with the gameplay on 4 was just that, like, at least like with the Promethean weapons, is everything just felt spongy. Like, nothing really felt dynamic with the like, I know, like, if you think about, standard Halo gunplay, you could use, the plasma pistol to take down the elite shield. It's a bit easier to do this. Like, you didn't have any of that with the Prometheans. Like, they didn't really have, like, any clear weaknesses, and their weapons didn't really, exploit any weaknesses. It was just shoot them till they die. And I know it's shooter, but it just made, I think, the gunplay felt a little stale to me.
I feel like trying to reach back and pull out opinions on a game from that long ago is kind of hard.
It's been a while. Yeah, I haven't played it in years.
But what I do remember is one of my least favorite aspects of that game's gameplay was I don't remember, was the Prometheans just the one specific boss type, or was that all of them? Because I have the ones that have the skull that pops out, the orange skull. They were
all Prometheans.
Okay, so that specific enemy, I felt like on the harder difficulties was so annoying because the only way you could do damage to it was by shooting at their skull. And I remember, if you guys don't watch, actually, a channel I really like to watch is the MaN. If you guys haven't if you haven't heard of him, check him out. He does a lot of really good Halo content. That's one of his things, Halo, Call of Duty, that type of stuff. But he kind of did a whole video talking about all the problems he had with 4, and like there were so many things that like I remember that game was stingy on the harder difficulties in terms of ammo. So you had to like precisely shoot some of these Prometheans in the head, and you would run out of ammo so quickly, and then all of the Prometheans' weapons were all garbo. I don't remember liking darn near any of them. Anyways, we don't have to go too deep on 4 in particular. Was there anything else you want to say on 4 real quick before I just kind of throw myself forward?
I'll just let you run through them. I really kind of want to see where you're going with it.
Yeah, so I just mean like there wasn't much about Halo 4 that I loved. Gameplay to me was a step back. The narrative was really good. I really liked some aspects. I liked some of the directions they were going with Chief and Cortana. Very much like that. I felt like they totally dropped the ball on Halo 5. That might have been the worst like narrative design that I feel like they've made for a Halo game. I don't remember any of the locations standing out. I don't remember what the plot of a lot of the things going on in that game was, whatever, however you want to say that. There was just, for me, Halo 5 might have been my least favorite Halo experience. Because I think we played that, right? We played that with my cousins. We played it like the night it came out, and didn't we like beat it and like?
I don't think I did. I feel like I played Halo 5 later down the line.
Could have been. And we beat it in
you
like a night.
Yeah, you might have played it with your cousins. I'm pretty sure I played it like way after release because I missed it completely, and I think it was on Game Pass at a point.
We played it at your house, though. That's what I remember.
Oh, well, I can't recall that. Just kind of maybe it goes to show you how memorable.
Yeah, I was going to say that goes to show. But yeah, so again, that's they're 0-1 with that, and that makes an 0-2 with Halo 5. I was not a big fan of that.
We have Master Chief Collection came out in there too, and that was a debacle at first.
That was a debacle. I didn't play that game until much later, and when I played it much later, I loved it. But again, I wasn't around for all of the problems. They had like a bunch of. What was the problems? Was it server issues?
Oh, it had technical issues out the wazoo when it first came out. Things didn't work. Things wouldn't load. That was just, man, I don't remember the laundry list of issues it had. It took it, I think, the better part of a year to get to a good standing. And even then, I think it still had issues. But I know right now it's looked at really favorably in the community because they've got everything polished up. They've added a bunch of new content and all this kind of stuff. So it's great now, but it definitely was a slow build getting it to that point.
Yeah. Gosh, I want to say Halo MCC was a positive for me, But again, that's because I came to the game much later than everyone else. So maybe I didn't have that, sour taste in my mouth from all those issues previously with that. I will say, to me, MCC was a positive, was a success. In my opinion, I don't know. I came to the game much later, and everything was complete, operational. So what else? I guess that just leaves Halo Infinite, because they didn't work on Halo Wars 2, and they didn't work on any of those crappy straight to overhead twin stick shooters that came out on the 360 time. So yeah, I would guess Halo Infinite. That would be the tough one. Like, Halo Infinite, I guess I would say would definitely be the best experience 343 has introduced in terms of Halo, but I still wouldn't say that was an amazing experience. Like, the campaign was fun, but I don't feel like they ever like fully succeeded in terms of the open worldness. Like, I felt like that game is like a no grapple hook away from being a bad game.
Sure.
I don't think the multiplayer was that fantastic. It's been proven now that game was so content deprived that, like,
When you say multiplayer wasn't fantastic, do you mean that from the fact that it was lacking a lot of content, or you thought the actual like moment-to-moment gameplay in multiplayer?
The moment-to-moment gameplay was fine. I enjoyed it. The content is more what I'm talking about. Like,
because I feel like, and I'll come back to this in a moment, but I felt like, at least from a multiplayer standpoint, it's probably some of the best that Halo has felt in a very long time. Like, the content is its own argument, but everything about just how the game plays, I definitely think from a multiplayer standpoint, it plays pretty well.
I guess I would agree with that. Like I said, the gameplay was good. I liked the gameplay. The weapons, everything feels pretty good to use. I just like, again, I only played that game because you played that game. Or that multiplayer, because normally if you hadn't have played the multiplayer, I probably would have only played the campaign with Halo games.
You've always been like that with, I was going to say, most Halo games, you've mostly been a campaign guy and dabble in multiplayer, so that's fair.
So I guess I'll get to the nitty gritty. Who would I want to take over? Or I guess ultimately I would say yes. I would love to see someone else take a stab at the Halo license. So who would I want? The one that I'm looking at a thing here of all of Microsoft Studios, and for me, what sticks out as a sore thumb, which is, of course, I want to say of course, but id Software. I loved the 2016 Doom game. That game was so good, I almost want to like replay it just so I could have some streams of it on my channel. Freaking love that game. Just about everything of that game was awesome, man. The story was, it was Doom. The story was very Doom, which is good. The gunplay was amazing. The game's super incredibly fast. The game was almost humorous in a way because of how ridiculous the Doom guy is, and just like how crazy, amazing game. I actually haven't even played Doom Eternal yet, which I very much want to do for my channel. I want to at least have that, documented. But yeah, so for me, I would say id Software. I feel like id Software I'm just comparing it to the quality of the shooting mechanics in Doom. They're just like top notch, for when it comes to Doom. So I would love to see a company that is very much in the first person shooter realm take a stab at Halo. Like, I wouldn't want something like, I don't know, just kind of looking.
You want Bethesda making the next Halo?
No.
Halo 76?
No, I would not want Bethesda. Another company I really like is Obsidian, but they just don't make those kind of games. So, like, the Obsidian, like, style I love, but no. Mojang, no. And Exile, no. They don't make those. I guess you can make an argument maybe the Coalition might be interesting, but I'd be curious how much is on the plate of the Coalition. I feel like Microsoft really just likes them focusing on Gears. You know what I mean? Like, like the Coalition is what it is because of Gears of War. So I don't know if I don't know if Microsoft would ever feel comfortable having them split their attention between two major franchises.
Yeah, no, I totally get that, and I had a feeling you would go with id. Like, I know your preference towards Doom of recent years, so I
Yeah.
had a feeling that would have been the direction you went. That's fair. I get
Yeah,
that.
and I wouldn't go with the Initiative. They're too green. They can't even get Perfect Dark out. Double Fine. That's not a Double Fine game. Undead Labs. They only exist for that zombie game.
I think King should take it over. Have a nice mobile
You think
version.
King's a mobile version of
Mhm.
I don't know about that. Maybe Ninja Theory might be kind of interesting, but
It'd be
I mean
interesting.
they're working on but Sensuous Blade, Hellblade.
That's right.
Maybe them. Definitely not ZeniMax. ZeniMax, no. Tango Gameworks. I think Tango Gameworks. They're the guys that work on Evil Within, and they just put out the Tokyo
Yeah.
Ghostwire Tokyo.
Ghostwire, yeah.
I'm going down. I'm literally going down the list. I don't remember what Machine Games works. Oh no, Machine Games does. What's the other Doom like franchise? The one where you kill Hitler. What's those games?
Wolfenstein.
Wolfenstein. Yeah, I think Machine Games does the Wolfenstein stuff. That might be kind of interesting too. That's a similar style that they like to work on. Maybe Arcane. I don't know. Arcane. They're the ones behind
They did
Dishonored,
Deathloop
right?
And Dishonored, yeah.
They
So
might
they've
be
done
interesting.
2D mechanics.
So definitely the ones I would be most interested, it actually turns out, is all three of these companies, Machine Games, id, or Arcane. Those are all
No
Bethesda.
Treyarch or Infinity Ward from the Activision side of things.
They don't own them yet.
Okay, come on. Come on. It's just- I guess you could argue. I'm looking at any potential studios they could have access to. I mean, just assume that that Activision deal goes through. Would any of those be on your checklist? Blizzard making Halo.
No.
Halo Craft.
No.
World of Halo.
No, there's really nothing on the Activision side. I'd have to go down. I'd have to go down the list and look. Oh, that's why you said King. I don't know why I didn't put it two and two together. No, I would say Ninja Theory or one of these id, Arcane, or Machine Games, Bethesda-oriented studios. Definitely id. Id puts out quality, like, and even from what I understand, people. I haven't played Doom Eternal, but like apparently people freaking love that game too. So, I guess that's all I have to say. I mean, I went with a studio that makes something quality, and they make a similar style of game. And honestly, I just love their personality and kind of their flavor that they put on their games. I don't know. I would go with id. What about you? What's your take?
I certainly think it would be interesting to see just about any of these developers take a shot at it because they all have their own takes on it. So it'll be interesting, kind of peek into how this franchise could end up in different hands. But honestly, I would not want to see anybody else make Halo right now. And my rationale for that is not that I loved Halo 4, because I didn't. I thought it was fine. I'm in a similar boat with you as Halo 5, although I know a lot of people have a pretty big following of it from the multiplayer side. They said that was pretty solid. But here's the thing, like, they've had a lot of stumbles, but if I focus on just how the game feels right now I'm not looking at its content or, like, the open world nature of stuff. Like, if I look at how Halo plays right now, it plays pretty good, and here's the thing, it feels like Halo. And that, I think, is something that's going to be lost if you go to any other developer. It took 343 a long time to figure out how Halo needed to feel again. And here's the thing, it's not that they have found a way to replicate what Bungie did, because the way Infinite plays is not the way that Halo 3 played. It feels like, at least to me, a fairly good evolution of those older titles. Like, it's where I would have thought maybe Bungie would have brought it at some point.
That's a good idea. They should have Bungie make a Halo game.
Yeah, that's gonna go well.
Yeah.
But I guess that's my thing. Like, if we take this game or we take Halo, we let anybody else take it, id or Infinity Ward, it is not going to feel like Halo again. I feel like for any cool advancements they have, I'm not saying it won't be a quality game or that it'll do some cool stuff, but they're not going to have that Halo feel. Whether they're trying to emulate it or not, it's going to feel like how 343 did when they took over Halo for the first time with 4. They did their own take on it. They added their own narrative. And here's the thing, 4 played well. It was a quality game. There was nothing that I remember being like technically wrong about it. Like, you could argue that you maybe didn't like the gameplay and stuff like that, but
I would agree with that. No, yeah, everything felt good, but again, my problem was the enemy types and like the ammo.
Right, there's some
there
game
were certain design flaws.
Yeah, and I can agree with that. But I guess the point is, like, they took it a very different route with the way the game felt. And it, at least for me, Halo 4 did not really feel like Halo anymore. That was the first time I'm like, oh, that feels a little weird. And I feel like we're going to get that if we get, id or, Obsidian or whoever. We're finally at a spot where we have the Halo feel again. And as much as I do think that 343 is... I hate to say they're dropping the ball, because I know there's a lot that goes on with, they've had delays and all this other stuff going on. They're trying to, prioritize the health of their employees to make sure they're not going through crunch. Like, I definitely appreciate all that. But I don't know. I'd like to see them have one more good shot at this, whether that mean not necessarily a whole other game, because I know they're talking about Infinite being, a 10-year game or something like that at this point. But I'd like to see them get these... seasons off the road with some substantial, either DLC or whatever they're going to add to it, and see if they can have an opportunity to get the ball rolling. Because to me, I feel like the only thing they're really missing right now is the content. Like, the bones are there. It feels good to play. If they could just be throwing out maps, if Forge was working well and the community could really work with that, they could then focus on, some DLC expansions to add some more narrative to it and flesh out the open world. Like, the bones are just there, and I feel like the bones are good.
I just thought about something. I'll throw your way. I actually read a story that apparently a few years ago during development. I think it was development prior to Halo Infinite. There were a bunch of former Bungie developers who wanted to join on and assist with helping, or they wanted to join 343, and apparently 343 was just really kind of jerkish about it. They put out a memo saying, or I don't know if it was a memo, but they put out something saying that they are saying to their employees and staff that they wanted to throw out all the old guard. They didn't want to. They told people that were applying, oh, you worked with Bungie, we don't want to hire you because we want to go in our own direction. We don't. And I just kind of bring it up just to kind of like. It's just kind of, maybe you don't have to look at it in a jerkish way, but like it just seems kind of like if you want to go in a direction of bringing on, like, I don't see what was the problem of bringing on people who have worked on successful games. Like, why? Like, you know what I mean? It just seems kind of backwards. Not wanting to bring on people who have experience in making quality games.
I'd like to see that memo to kind of see the context of it. I guess the fear would be, like, what positions would those Bungie devs take on? Like, I mean, it's not just about the experience, but if you put them in any kind of position that has, some lead creative control or, something like that, it's going to carry a lot of influence with the direction of the game. Now, that may be good or bad, but if, 343 had a very clear directive that, no, we want to do something different, and they're worried that, old Bungie devs might be a little... more stuck in the traditional ways of Halo, and they have some kind of lead development position, there could be some conflict there. So, I mean, I'm not agreeing that they should have, turned them away necessarily. I mean, honestly, I think it probably would have been nice to have a good merger of the two. But, I mean, once again, I'd have to see that memo to know exactly what their phrasing and context was.
I just thought about it at the top of my head. I mean, I think... I heard that...
I feel like, I could be wrong, doesn't, at some level... There are old Bungie devs in 343.
Joseph Staten is a former 343 or a Bungie guy.
No, that just seems very odd. Maybe it was the timing of maybe when they were putting out the statement.
I heard that quote on a podcast recently, and you're right. It might have been timing. It could have been that could have been right during the creation of 343, and maybe just some random developer threw that out there or something. I don't know. That could just not be substantial,
It seems a little out of context. So I mean, I'm not saying
I can't even find the article, and I'm looking for it. So maybe ignore that.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting thing to think about, but to my knowledge, I thought they had some Bungie devs. I mean, definitely with what's his face on there and a few others, but I don't know. My whole point with this is I would like. I mean, I'm frustrated with 343 too. I'm not acting like I love where they're at right now because they've definitely been way too slow with drip feeding this content, and they might have perfectly rational reasons for being slow, but I want to see more. But I would hate to lose what they finally got to, because you got to think they've gone through a lot of growing pains to get Halo to where it is right now. To then all of a sudden be like, "Yep, we're done, and we're just gonna pass it off to somebody else." I feel like that's gonna be wasted. I'd really like to see them at least make good effort out of what they've done with Infinite, and do something substantial with it. At least one more shot. So that's my take.
All right. So overall, you said you wouldn't want to see another company. You'd want to see 343 just continue to kind of work through whatever their
at least
their
one
problems
more
are.
big shot, whatever that is, whether it be another game or it be time to let Infinite grow. Because here's the thing too, like it goes
That's
back
not
to
up
how
to you though. I guarantee you that's probably all they have left is
well,
one
this
more
is my
shot.
decision. What are you talking about? I'm deciding who takes over Halo.
Well, I'm saying people within Microsoft have probably already made that known that like if you don't turn around Halo 5, then this next one is your last that's your last try.
Maybe, but I'm curious how Microsoft is looking at Halo, like as far as it being successful or not, because it definitely came out really high last year as far as critically people loved it, even the fans they really enjoyed, and I enjoyed where the gameplay was at and where it was going. I think the lack of content has kind of soured the impressions a little bit over the past few months, but I imagine that it's done pretty well for Microsoft up to this point. So, and 343 does have the I'm sorry, I'm dying over here a little bit. They do have
Drink
the
water. Get water.
probably need to, yeah, let me do that real quick.
No, he ruined it. He ruined the whole episode.
I guess again they do have the oh man, my brain can't think. What they do with
'cause it's so dry.
Master Chief Collection, they've shown that they can take something that's pretty broken and build it to something that's pretty great. So I'm hoping that is where Infinite is going to go. And to be fair, some of these issues with Infinite might not be coming from 343 directly. It could be Microsoft like forcing them to have certain microtransactions or a certain structure.
Time
There's been a lot. There's been a lot of talk that that's the reason it became a live service game essentially, and maybe that's not what it ever should be. 343 clearly is trying to figure out how to do a live service game, and they may not never initially wanted it to be a live service game. So,
I know Microsoft is on the uptick the last few years, but they still have yet to put out like an absolute 100% banger. I would say Forza, the last one, critically maybe the only major critically beloved.
Niche too. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I mean, even though I would say Microsoft has been doing a good job the last few years in terms of improvement, they still haven't put out a major Psychonauts. Psychonauts was big in terms of critical, but I guarantee you that game's not on everyone's mind.
Yeah, I think it's a very different take, and I think it's what they've done is good. They've definitely taken a lot of time to build up what their offerings are going to be. We're just slowly starting to see the fruits of that investment, right? We see Forza, we see you're right, Psychonauts. I mean, and I don't think a game has to be super mainstream to be a feather in Microsoft's hat. Like Psychonauts 2 was highly critically acclaimed. The fans who wanted that game seemed to really enjoyed it, and Halo, I mean, for what it is, I think I'm still going to call it a win for Microsoft overall. Mm-hmm. It could have been so much worse. Imagine if Infinite would have came out and it was compared similarly to Halo 5.
Imagine if it came out and it didn't have campaign co-op. It would have been absolutely disastrous.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No. It's not perfect, but
Man.
I don't know. As I'm saying, I'm not putting all the fault on 343. There could be a lot of stuff that has put them in this particular predicament. I just want to see them have one more shot. And I think they will. I mean, I don't think Microsoft's going to cut them off in the knees right now while they're in the midst of developing Infinite. I think it's very much just going to depend on how they turn this around. I tell you, if Forge comes out and Forge is solid enough, that could help a lot. I know we were talking last week that I'm personally...
Forge is something, yeah, I agree. It's the type of thing that's what keeps your dedicated coming back.
Yeah. And to be fair, I know I was just talking last week, I do think it's a little too late. I mean, at least for me, I've stepped away from this Halo, at least for quite a while, but I still think there's potential in there for them to, as I said, build up Forge, build up new content. If they put out good DLC, I'll come back. 'Cause I'm like with you, I like Halo for those campaign experiences more than the multiplayer. So if they put out some kind of refresh on that, that might hook me back into multiplayer once I run through the campaign again. And there's potential there one day, but we'll see.
Yeah. I would just say, even though Halo Infinite, in my opinion, has many disappointments, and 343 has had many disappointments, in my opinion, in terms of their Halo track record, I still wouldn't necessarily say they've made like a really bad game. Like, they may have made some like kind of not great Halo games, but they've made good games. Even though I didn't like Halo 5, that still was a relatively like fun game to play. It just wasn't. I think the problem is looking at every game and comparing it to.
It's got to live up to the Halo legacy.
Yeah, that's.
343 never had an easy going at this. Going into 4, they were coming off of Halo Reach, which one of the most accoladed Halo games that had come out. That's a big offer, a big thing they have to try to live up to. So they've always been trying to live up to those expectations. I'm sure there's a lot of pressure. So I think they've done overall an amicable job with the games they have released, and I think they are getting to a good spot. We just need more content.
No, yeah. All right, so that's I guess that's kind of all of our thoughts there. I think I would love to see id give it a try, but I mean I do kind of agree with Phoenix to an extent. 343 hasn't done a bad job. They've done good enough to where I still would like to. I'm still grasping, still holding on to hope that they'll make an absolute banger Halo game at some point. So Phoenix, these other two topics, again, I didn't get to read any of them, so these are ones that you kind of brought to the table. Would you want to go ahead and intro these ones, seeing as how I'm a know nothing on these?
Sure. I'm trying to think which one we'll talk about. Let's talk about the potential acquisition first.
We'll switch over.
So, I mean, this is not the freshest of news. I think it's been, a week or so that these rumblings have been out. But they basically, I mean, we know everybody's trying to buy everybody right now. And I guess there's rumors or rumblings that Ubisoft might be a potential purchase by somebody down the line here.
Microsoft in the corner doing the...
And see, that's what I'm not sure about. I am curious to see who you would want to see purchase these guys. But the rumors, from what I can tell in the reports, is that they're looking at like private equity firms. And I don't know how much you know about how they operate, but honestly, that's kind of worst case scenario. Like, if a game company buys out Ubisoft, you'll think they'll utilize what it is for gaming purposes. But private equity firms treat things very differently. Like,
I would assume that they're very revenue centric.
Yeah, and they might chop things up and sell things off, and like they're not here to appease the gaming community. That is not their interest. Their interest is bottom line, make some money off their purchase. So I'd also be kind of worried to see what Ubisoft even looks like after one of these private firms takes them over. But I mean, you got to think Ubisoft's in a precarious spot, just like Activision was, before them, or I mean, even around the same time. Like Ubisoft, I mean, if you look at that article, they've had their own set of workplace scandals. They had potential buyout that they were trying to fight off a few years ago.
Well, what's also been telling about them hurting is have you actually something I haven't looked into it, but I remember seeing is lately they've been like super NFT heavy. With certain things, which is like apparently they're not in great shape if they're out here just kind of flussying themselves around.
To be fair, they are not the only ones that have been flirting with the NFTs.
Oh, no.
There's that whole Sega mega game NFT nonsense they're talking about. So I think that's more of just a thing that gaming companies as a whole have been trying to explore and investigate in as a potential revenue stream. But
by the way, guys, check out my personalized NFTs on my channel. Thank you.
Oh, no. I'll bail off your channel real quick, Chaz. You'll find a new podcast partner here pretty soon if you go NFTs.
They're bikini pics only. So
anywho,
ratchet up the revenue. I need all the monies.
So anyways, based off this, it just looks like they are potentially up for grabs. I was reading too, like, beyond just their main CEO, like, I think just having a rough go of it over the past few years for various reasons. I guess his son has left the company now.
Oh,
so
Yves
it's not even
Guillemot?
like,
Guillemot or
yeah,
whatever.
I guess his son, whatever his name is, it's in here somewhere.
Something Guillemot.
Yeah, Charlie Guillemot. And I can't pronounce his name. I apologize. But point being, now there's not even like a familial tie there, so it's not like he's trying to pass on the legacy to his son or anything. It's just, I would imagine this guy wants a way out, or at least that's I think what people are thinking. And there's been reports that certain departments, they're starting to go through some auditing to kind of clean up the books a little bit, so that if they are going to sell things are in a nice tidy order to do so. I don't know. It's starting to seem like the higher ups are just wanting to get out while they can, make some money, move on. And at least right now, it's looking like that might potentially go to private equity firms, which I don't think would be good. It'd be nice. Well, I don't know if it'd be nice. I mean, this goes into the big then argument over, do you really want to see another major game publisher buy up a Ubisoft? Because that's a pretty big purchase. Ubisoft, has several high-profile franchises under their belt. I'm trying to pull up a list of all the games they have in development right now.
Again, a major thing that shoots out to my mind is, I'm not to sound like a goody two shoes, but like, I much rather would have a game company like that fall into the hands of somebody who understands the market, understands the business, and that's for many reasons. For game preservation reasons, I would rather have a Microsoft or a Sony be in charge of doing that. I don't know how I would trust some third-party equity company, to take care of the preservation of these titles. I don't know about you. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, and I think that's the big fear. I think that's why this has particularly garnered so much interest, or this rumor. It's not just that they're being bought out. I mean, people have been, touring with, Ubisoft could get bought out by Microsoft or something like that. But the fact that it could be one of these private firms, it's just, I don't know. It's concerning because not only is it not great for the developers that are involved at Ubisoft, but yeah, who knows what happens to these IPs? Do they start getting chopped off and do they get sold off where Microsoft buys the Assassin's Creed from the firm or something like that?
That's if they're looking to sell and no one buys the company outright, just sell the IPs. Please do that. Something that is very scary and reminiscent of is a lot of people have been complaining for years about the titles that Konami has had, and Konami is just out here making pachinko machines, and they're sitting on all of these huge name brands.
Silent Hills and all that.
Silent Hill, Castlevania. Mm-hmm. They're sitting on all of these games that people love, but they just refuse to do anything with them. And it's like, yeah, if you're not gonna, if Konami doesn't want to get bought out, then dude, just sell your IPs. And that's why a lot of people hate Konami now. Is not only what they did with Kojima, but yeah, I mean, they're sitting on all these IPs that people want them to do something. It's like poking them with a stick, do something,
So do you think that would be your preferred kind of outcome of this? As if a firm did buy them out and then just piece out all the IPs, sell off Assassin's Creed to Sony?
Yeah. If one of these companies doesn't just outright buy Ubisoft, like a Sony or a Microsoft, then yeah, I wouldn't bother me. Sell the IPs off wholesale. Whatever.
Would you prefer that over one company like Microsoft, Sony, whoever is buying all of it?
I would rather Microsoft just buy the whole thing, honestly. I mean, if they're not gonna just piece it out, then I guess. I mean, I would feel more comfortable with those games being in the hands of somebody. I don't know, somebody I feel like they know what they're doing.
It would be really weird if Microsoft bought them out. I'm not saying that would happen or not. So one of the games they have in development is that Mario Rabbids, whatever the new title is.
Yeah.
So think about that. So if Microsoft bought that, they would have a Mario game potentially exclusive on the Xbox. I mean, I'm assuming that could be. I mean, I'm sure that there's already licenses and stuff for it to be on multiple platforms. I'm sure they probably couldn't do it without Switch, but
Microsoft plays fairly nice. I mean, I guarantee you they would not. It would be multi-plat. I don't think it would be.
Well, I guess it would probably have to. I'm sure it's licensed.
Yeah.
Nintendo wouldn't have let Ubisoft have it if it wasn't going to be on the Switch. But if Microsoft bought it, I bet there'd be a world where Mario could end up on the Xbox, and that'd be interesting.
That would be interesting. This makes me really worried though about I mean, this makes me a game that I really was looking forward to for now years at this point is like, what is the status now of the development of Beyond Good and Evil 2? Like,
Oh man, that game's not gonna happen.
is that game even being made at this point? Like, what is
They
going
haven't
on?
mentioned anything. There was a while, didn't the? Oh, correct me if I'm wrong, because I can't recall. Didn't the lead creative director?
He might have left,
leave?
or he or she might have left. I don't know.
I thought he did, or maybe there were rumblings of it. I can't recall now, but there's been some troubled issues, I think, leading up through their development thus far, and there's been no news about it.
But that's
I
one
feel
of
like
those
that's
like,
one-
that's one of those like IP brands that like somebody like me who who I didn't say I loved the first Beyond Good and Evil, but it was a good enough game where I'm like I would love to play a second one, and I really liked the gameplay trailer and everything that was shown at that E3 a few years ago, like
It was many years ago. Wasn't
like
it
4 years ago, yeah, something like that. Now
Yeah, it's been a while.
it's just like,
I mean-
what is the status? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But they have a bunch of games. Like, Ubisoft, I mean, has a lot of IPs that they have...
They haven't
you know,
had many
control over.
successes though the last few years. The biggest one they had was
Well-
Rainbow Six Siege.
Oh, okay, well, when we say success, I mean, you have to, I guess think about your metrics here, but they put out Far Cry every year, and those always sell like gangbusters. Like, I'm pretty sure Far Cry 6 still sold really, really well. I'm not sure if I know it's not their best, and there's definitely complaints about it being way too samey, but that was a hit for them.
We bought that sports game they made like 5 months ago, and we never played it.
Riders Republic.
We played it like
once.
twice.
I'm trying to look down the list. They got the Mario Rabbids coming out. They got a Prince of Persia: Sands of Time remake they're
That's
doing.
never coming out.
Remember they? Well, it's been on hiatus for a bit too. Remember they also have all the Splinter Cells.
That's never coming out.
I think they'll have another Splinter Cell. I mean, I don't know what it's going to look like, but they'll revitalize that IP at some point. They got Assassin's Creed. You've got just about anything Tom Clancy related. So I mean, they've got quite a few big titles under their belt. So I mean, if somebody did buy them out, they'll be adding quite a bit to their repertoire.
Would you definitely say their not best, but their most expensive or most valuable IP would be Assassin's Creed, right? By far, I would think.
That or Far Cry, because Far Cry
Rainbow
does
Six
sell
Siege,
really well.
maybe.
But that's I don't know if I'd say Rainbow Six is higher than Assassin's Creed. I mean, it's popular. But
Assassin's Creed by name is probably.
I guess the point being, they've got some big titles under their belt. It's not like they don't have anything to offer. So anybody who did purchase them would definitely be adding quite a bit to their repertoire. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about any one person buying them out. Like, I don't think that, like, I don't personally have an issue with, like, Microsoft buying Activision out. I feel like that's still, things are still mostly fine in the gaming ecosphere with that. I think I'd feel weird if Microsoft also bought Ubisoft. I feel like that's really starting to lean a little heavy on monopoly-ish. I mean, I know it's not. I mean, you still got Sony and Nintendo, and because of those two big entities, it's going to be hard, I think, to claim monopoly on Microsoft, even if they did buy something like Ubisoft. But I don't know. They're getting pretty bloated if you look at it that way. They'll have a lot of titles and a lot of IPs exclusive under their belt. So
it says in 2018 they almost sold to Vivendi, which I believe that's Tencent. Yeah,
it's under Tencent. But I think that was almost like a takeover. They weren't wanting to sell. They were trying to fight off against. Yeah, it says right there. He was trying to fend off the takeover from it. Yeah. So it's sounding like, though, this is more and more a possibility that they will be selling off. And I don't know. I don't know how the equity firm stuff is going to pan out for them. I think best case scenario is that you're right, they sell off the IPs, but that's going to hurt the developers at Ubisoft because, Microsoft might end up getting, Tom Clancy, and maybe, Sony gets Assassin's Creed, but that doesn't mean the development teams are going to go with them. They might just sell the IP. So all these developers now are kind of out on their butt, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, but would those developers be retained even if they went to some... Say something wrong? Okay, I was making sure. I thought your audio went out. But would they be retained even if they were bought out by some conglomerate like Microsoft, or not Microsoft, but by one of those equity firms? Like, I don't know what goes on within that.
It all depends, I think. Like, if you had like a Microsoft just buy Ubisoft outright, at least they're buying it as one big component, and they could decide, what development talent stays where and how to move from there. But if an equity firm chooses that, it's just not worth their investment to sell the entire development team or the access to that studio, it's better for them just to sell the IP. Then that's just going to gut those developers essentially, which. I mean, I don't know. Kind of leaves them high and dry. So I don't know. I don't know if I have really a take on who should buy this. I guess I just feel for the direction because it seems like this is. I don't know. I don't know if I say it's likely because I haven't read anything official one way or the other. But there's a lot of rumors, a lot of reports pointing to it. So I feel like something's definitely in the down the pipeline a little bit.
Yep. All right. I guess we'll switch to another aspect of this story. I mean, you also. We'll just go through some of the links. So you were saying that this kind of leads into that idea of. It says here Ubisoft has shut down online services for 91 games.
And I don't know if it leads into necessarily. I think it's just kind of a interesting kind of coincidence.
It's not a good sign.
Well, okay, to be fair, because I know when this article first got announced, there was some not misinformation, but it was kind of misquoted because there was like an error in how the game list got posted. It's not that all 91 games all of a sudden got delisted. I guess they'd been doing it over the course of the past couple of years or something like that, or past year. So it's not like immediately all these games got turned off. And basically, it's a lot of older games. Like, I don't know if you have a list of the games up there, but it's, some random stuff.
No, that's in development.
Yeah, that's it. So you see a lot of it is stuff from, the 360 days, PS3, some weird stuff from like On Live, which is interesting. A lot of PC games. And on one side of this, it's just unfortunate to see any game lose, some kind of, feature like multiplayer connectivity. Because if you want to go back on and play these games, in 10 years from now, you're going to have a much harder time doing so. You're not going to be able to wrap up achievements on some of these games if that's an interest of you.
I won't.
I
won't.
But you get what I'm saying. There's some game preservation conversation I'm sure you could have here.
Not everyone has... Shoot, how many games do I have? Like 1,500? A little over that now?
Yeah, so I don't know. And I don't know how many people that affects. It's definitely... I don't think it's a bad thing to see something like this happen. I think it's an obvious thing. They can't keep servers up for these games forever. So there's a point when, yes, they're going to cut off a game and it's not going to be accessible on a multiplayer component. I guess what I find interesting is just the timing with this potential sale article. Like we already said, they're going through auditing certain departments, trying to clean up stuff. Or they may be shutting off some of these servers also to try to clean up things a little bit. So if they do sell, it's one less thing kind of overhanging to deal with. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I don't know if you have any particular takes on it. And this may not be a big topic to kind of elaborate on.
Yeah,
but
not really.
Know if you have any thoughts.
It was an interesting thing to bring up. I don't think it's a great sign, but I don't know. I'm kind of tired. I'm kind of over, really, batting down on a lot of these companies that are doing anti-game preservation things. It's at the point where it's like, dude, there's not really much you can do. These games can't be supported forever. Do what you can to get your physicals while you can, if at all possible. But
well, on something like this, it doesn't matter if it's physical or not. Like if I have a physical copy of, I'm trying to look at your list really quick.
Oh, you mean online-based games where you?
Yeah, now there are usually some weird workarounds. I remember I used to do some of that with what was the service? Something with a K. I don't remember. There was basically a PC
most of these aren't online games though. Well, a lot of the Rainbow Sixes.
Well, they have the Rainbow Sixes. There's some stuff that has an online component. Clearly there must be because all these games are games that had online connectivity.
Yeah, Smurfs 2. Okay.
Yeah, Smurfs 2. Oh, Chaz.
No online Smurfs 2. Smurf that. That's Smurfing stupid.
I'll leave it at that. So I'd bring it up because it kind of correlated.
Did you want to touch on this last section? Maybe
what was the last one?
Something about all these games are currently in development.
Oh, I just linked that. So as we were talking through, what if Ubisoft was selling, kind of what IPs they had.
Oh no, the new Avatar game could be in trouble. Oh no. I guess I'll run through. It is disappointing. I'm actually really looking forward to Rabbids. Prince of Persia, never really been a franchise I cared about. Rocksmith, I've never played any of those.
I had a couple of those. They're actually pretty fun.
Skull and Bones, dude. This game got announced like a decade ago. That game,
I know.
still not out. The Division, Assassin's Creed Infinity. There's not much here. Oh, there's the one. Yeah, you can stop me if I'm just blasting through. Beyond Good and
I
Evil
kind of read
was
through a lot already.
yeah. Beyond Good and Evil is like maybe the only one that I like. Really kind of hits me hard, but other than that, not really much else. All right, so I think I'm ready to move on. That's all that's there.
Okay. I don't know what else there is to move on. I think we've pretty much hit all the topics for this time.
Yeah, pretty much. Sheesh. Well, is that all we had? I mean, that's we didn't hit the 2-hour mark. That's crazy.
Thank goodness. Let's just end while we're ahead.
But yeah, I guess just so you guys know, this next following week, if me and Phoenix would just so happen to be taking little trips at almost the exact same time, so I feel like this next episode we may or may not make on our or be able to record on our normal Thursday. If not, we'll push it back a day or two as we've been doing occasionally. But I don't know. I feel like Thursday might still be workable. I mean, I'll be back early Tuesday morning, so I'll have all of Tuesday off to kind of start working on notes or figuring out what we want to do.
We'll see what happens. We'll keep an eye on what stories pop up. And once again, if anybody is reading, which apparently, hey, we got comments. So at least one person's reading it. So if you have any suggestions for topics or if you disagree with anything we've said or you have your own take on it, I said we are not game analysts by any means. We're just we're just some gamers that that enjoy talking about stuff.
Don't take anything we take as we're not pros. We're not media people. Like we're just nerds
talking about games. So if you have any insight or any opinions about what we've talked about or want to share your take on it, we'd love to hear it and bring your conversation into our podcast talk and go from there.
Yeah, that's kind of the whole thing. That's the whole purpose of starting this whole podcast thing. Is we're people that throughout most of our adult lives have enjoyed kind of sipping on beers and talking with our friends or talking with each other about games for forever. So I don't know, it's fun. We definitely don't consider ourselves professionals at anything. We're just basement dwellers. Right. So Phoenix, was there any games or anything you had? Anything you were thinking about starting up?
I still want to start Horizon.
Okay.
I might try to start that here in the next month or so. I've got a couple other personal projects I'm working on too, so that'll probably take up a fair amount of my time. But that's the one game that's been on my backlog now for a while. I've wanted to get into because I love the first one, so I'm looking forward to that for a bit. So if anything, that might be the one I finally bite the bullet on. Yeah,
I've still got Guardians, still got Lost in Random, still got Psychonauts 2. There's any number for me, honestly, and I feel like
I recommend Guardians for you.
Yeah.
Just knowing you, I think you're going to enjoy that. It's not a real long game. You can run through that in a few streams and be satisfied.
You know what's actually crazy is this is an awesome time to catch up on your backlog, because I think from what I've heard on other podcasts is like we're actually in a big drought right now in terms of major games released. I don't believe the next major game comes out until August. And I don't remember what's August. Oh crap. Either way, I won't try. But yeah, I think August is like the next major game that comes out. So good time to get caught up on all your TV shows, movies, and stuff.
Maybe you can finally play through Mass Effect 2 and I can get my game back from you.
Yeah, you can have it. I think it's still on Game Pass, right?
Yeah, it is.
You can have your game back whenever you want. I don't care. Alrighty, guys. Well, I guess we've done it all. That's another episode in the books. Once again, feel free in the comments suggest any topics or anything, whatever you would like to stick to whatever you guys would want to hear. We did have an idea of something we might start wanting to do is I don't know, kind of do like a top 5, top 10, something about our favorite games maybe for certain consoles. If you guys thought that sounds interesting, feel free to let us know. Or if you would rather us do like just maybe, I don't know how that would work. That's totally up to you guys if you would like this. So feel free, suggest away, comment down below. Alrighty, Phoenix. Well, thank you so much for joining again this week.
No problem. Always fun.
All right, guys. Well, that was another episode of the EnteR ChazmaN podcast. Thank you so much for joining. I love you, and we will see you again. Please join in for next week. Bye bye. Adios, guys.